Welcome to Community Connections with Children's Services Council of St. Lucie County. I'm just one of your hosts, Sean Boyle, and with me is
Ashley Mott.
And welcome to the half-hour TV program that comes to you once a month thanks to a wonderful partnership with St. Lucie Public Schools through their media channel, WLX TV. And if you're watching this show and you're like, Sean, actually, I tune in all the time.
Thank
but you want to see those old shows where when I used to get a haircut, when Ashley was in middle school, you can go to YouTube. Look up WLX TV St. Lucie. I always throw in the St. Lucie because I think there's somebody else called WLX. Throw in WLX St. Lucie. Not only can you find this show and all of the programming that goes back almost 10 years, actually, maybe even 10 years.
It's a while.
Math is not our strong point. And then, but you can also check out all the wonderful programming that takes place through the St. Lucie Public Schools. But welcome to the show. What we talk about, besides promoting WLX TV, is we talk about resources and things that are available for children in St. Lucie County. Now, we at the Children's Services Council, despite doing this show for 10 years, getting incrementally better or incrementally worse, you can be the judge on the media, but what we focus on at the Children's Services Council every single day is 5 priorities, and those priorities are: 1, making sure every baby's a healthy baby; 2, stopping child abuse before it happens. I'm going to pause until our guest gets involved in the counting too. Okay. 3, keeping kids off the streets; 4, keeping them in school; and 5, keeping them off drugs, alcohol, and other risky behaviors. And we do that by funding and developing programs that are available to all children in St. Lucie County.
And we use this show to introduce you to those programs. There happens to be actually more than the weeks that we have, obviously more than the months that we have, but we talk about them from time to time on the show. So this is really a good way to kind of learn about them, learn what they're doing in the community. We have a great program to talk to you about today. But in addition to the show, there's other ways that you can learn more about our network of programs as well. Obviously on our website, which is cscslc.org. But we
I feel
also,
like we should do like the YMCA.
Oh.
We'll have to work on that.
That's a lot of bendy letters. I don't know how that would work. We do have a lot of information on our website. We also have these family guides, which have, if you've watched for a while, they're shrinking as we go through time. So we're now down to this one-page version, which is really simple, and we actually have copies that are available out in the community. If you have a place of business where you could display these, we have these printed right now in English, Spanish, and Creole. So if you have the ability to display those to share with the community, we'd be happy to bring some to you. But this is also available on our website to download as a PDF. All the information you need.
The next iteration will be the size of a business card and 0.5 font.
It'll just be, it'll talk to you. No, just
It'll be AI.
Yeah. But these are really helpful, especially if you have a position in the community where you are often talking with families about needs or things that they're experiencing. This is really kind of a quick glimpse at all of the programs that we work with, along with their contact information, so you can easily make referrals to families for whatever they might need at the time.
You know, in the history of us working together at Children's Services Council, because you're
long history.
19, 20,
It'll
soon to be 20,
in
right?
January.
Soon to be 20 years. If you remember, this guide used to be like 60 pages. It was English, half of it, Spanish, the other half, and we'd have to carry those to events.
Yep.
And I remember thinking, I got to carry 6 boxes that weigh 20 pounds, 30 pounds each. Now that I don't have to do it all the time, I'm like, what the heck? Why couldn't we do this 20 years ago?
It's getting smaller and smaller. I don't know what that says about us, but all the information is here. It is a nice, compact way to get everything you need.
And so you mentioned our website, but you forgot, the place
favorite place.
where truth and adventure lies, which is social media. A little satire right there. If you're on social media, and let's face it, you're on the Book of Face, aka
Everyone
Facebook, because how else do you figure out what your friends from high school are up to?
Right.
But if you're on Facebook, make sure you look up Children's Services Council St. Lucie. Put in that St. Lucie part, because there's like 10 other Children's Services Council. And
we like
they're
them.
okay, but we're the best. But to learn about what's going on, not only with our programs, but the community and or inspirational messages. And if you want to take it a step further, subscribe to our subscribe to our Instagram, or IG is what we like to call it. That's not true. Instagram,
cool
look up St. Lucie CSC. We mixed it up a little bit. You see what we did there? But we do also have an Instagram account, which is a little bit more behind the scenes.
A little bit more fun, maybe. One of the cool things, if we're in this back to school season at the moment, we're just talking about how hot it is outside, and I experienced that this week at a Kids at Hope Tunnel of Hope, and we do often talk about that on the show.
You gonna recite the pledge?
Ooh. I I mean, I probably could, but now you put me on the spot. And
Tony
I'm
and I
feeling
were in a
very
meeting where we
nervous.
recited
You
it,
had
and
to?
I tried to hide it so he couldn't read it.
That feels right. But if you do take a peek at Facebook this week, you'll get to see pictures from the tunnels that have happened. They're actually going on for about a month, starting this week. But really fun experience. If you have time and can make it out to a tunnel, I would encourage you to do that. It is really not like any other experience that you could possibly have, getting to welcome kids back to school. Huge outpouring support from the community, from law enforcement, from the fire district, I was with a group of retired teachers yesterday at a tunnel.
With your mom, right?
My mom was there, yep. So just a really fun time. Take a look at the pictures. They're all over Facebook this week. But I would encourage you to attend one if you can. We have posted the schedule, and we'll continue to post the schedule as the weeks go on.
If you're not familiar with the Tunnel of Hope, and if you have a child in school, ask them about the Kids at Hope or Kids at Hope Pledge. It's one of our funded initiatives through the Roundtable, but it's the simple belief that all children are capable of success, no exceptions. The idea being, if we label an area or a group of kids of at risk, they're going to live up to that expectation. We don't say that in St. Lucie County. We say that every child is capable of success, no exceptions, because they will rise to that expectation.
Yes.
That's my PSA for the day.
I like it. I feel like you should have had like a class.
I know. So school has started. I have a couple of public service announcements. First of all, school has started. And if you haven't noticed that and you're watching that, then clearly you're not driving between the hours of 7 and 9. But because we are driving between the hours of 7 and 9 to get to work, please be careful. Kids often have to walk to bus stops and or to school. Sometimes there's sidewalks, sometimes there's not. So be extra vigilant. And please, 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 if a bus is coming and they put out that they're going to stop to pick up kids, you got to stop.
Saw it yesterday.
I know,
actually.
I know, and that could end in a tragedy.
Yep.
Or and least worse is you're going to end up with a ticket if you do that. So don't do that.
I will say, just as kind of a push for that information, if you are not familiar with the laws surrounding school zones or school buses, Sheriff Del Toro and Dr. Prince, the superintendent of schools, put out an incredible video at the end of last week. I think it's shared on both the Sheriff's Office Facebook and the school district's Facebook. Really informative, really helpful. Just a lot of information included in there about what you can and can't do in a school zone while you're driving, related to bus safety, all of that.
And this one, we had a couple of tragedies this past weekend, and just we bring this up particularly in the warm time of Florida, which is a joke because it's always warm. But we are surrounded in Florida by bodies of water, whether it be canals, rivers, oceans, and or swimming pools. So be extra vigilant if you have a pool, and if your kids are swimming, I don't care what age they are, make sure there's an adult watching them, because drowning is not a loud event. It happens silently. And if you have a child, particularly around a body of water, make sure that you have some safety protocols in advance and set in place. And also, we are actually in conversation with the Sheriff's Office. I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but they do have a program where, and I don't know what it's called.
Project Lifesaver.
Project Lifesaver, where they have trackers that you can put on, for example, kids that maybe have autism that are known to run, and or maybe even elderly that may have dementia. Please contact the Sheriff's Office. We're working with them to see if we can't kind of expand that a little bit. But because we're on bodies of water, and we only bring this up not to bring the show down, but especially if you have a pool, you just got to be extra vigilant. Safe Kids has pool alarms.
They do, and I think again it might be something that we look into to ensure that they're available widely. But pool alarms, again, lots of information available about the levels of safety that you should have if you do have a pool at your home. But there are resources available. So if you do have a pool and you are struggling to feel like you're making it safe, please reach out to somebody or to us, and we'll connect you to the right place to make sure that you get what you need.
Right. And we have a guest today.
We do.
We have the okayest of guests today. I'm just kidding. A good friend of ours, a good friend of mine.
Is there a sign for that?
But I think, the most okayest. We're chamber graduates, right?
Yes.
Chamber leadership graduates, and they always say the best class.
Right.
I've just resigned.
Okayest.
We're the okayest class. We're in class 39, nothing special. We're the okayest class. But I think it's apropos that we're recording on the first week of school, and we're in a school board building. But I think it's important, and I think it's very appropriate that we have this guest here, because a lot of those building blocks for school success are built before they even step foot in a school.
Look at you. What a segue.
I'm talking like I'm a board member of this entity.
It's so weird that you say that. No, we do have a really great guest today, and a good friend of yours and mine. Tony Loupe is with us, the CEO of the Early Learning Coalition of St. Lucie County. And truly, I think probably one of the first steps that parents get into a school experience is when their child enrolls in childcare or VPK, if that's the first time that they're going in. But that involves a lot. There are a lot of, it's a big change. There are a lot of steps. We were talking to a parent downstairs about her child's first day of VPK. But there's a lot more that Early Learning Coalition does. And so we'll kind of try to break down some of those things today. I don't think we'll get to all of them because we never do, do we?
We should keep track, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
the next time
Before
I
we
come-
get
It
to
would make
that,
sense.
can we talk about the pickleball game where I hit Tony with a pickle? No, I'm just kidding.
all
That's
the
a
time.
different
Like,
show.
One game.
Yeah, that's right. Every time we play.
That's
my
a
mission.
different show. Also, if you ever find yourself in a meeting between these two, good luck to you. They
Because
are.
we are the most studious participants when we sit
Absolutely.
together.
That's exactly what I was going to say. But no, thank you, Tony, for being with us. Obviously, as we're kind of entering this back to school time, that doesn't just include our school age kids anymore. It includes our little guys too. So talk a little bit about what role the Early Learning Coalition plays and how that works in St. Lucie County.
Great. Well, first of all, thank you all for having me on the show. I appreciate it. We are involved. Sorry, Sean's making googly eyes at me.
Of course he is.
Googly eyes.
Throwing me off. Well, I'm out of the corner of my eye. So yes, we're involved with the VPK administration piece. So we don't actually perform the VPK services or the teaching of the children, but we administer the program, and our children, our parents have to come to us to get their certificates, and then they go on to the child care centers. And as you mentioned, Ashley, this could be one of the first experiences that a child is having in a school setting. I realize child care centers, some of them are large, but they're not as large as the school district buildings, right? So, but that first experience really it can be a scary thing. It can be a positive thing, and we hope that everyone has a positive experience. But unfortunately, we heard today where a little boy was very sad that he was in a different setting and cried in his lunch. So that was very sad to hear. But it's really about how do you encourage that child when they come home to understand that, okay, this day might not have been what you thought it was going to be, but look forward to making the new friends and interacting with the teachers and such. So the VPK is really kind of the first program that the state's involved with in setting standards around the educational components that the children receive, and it's really about getting them ready for kindergarten ultimately. So with those child care centers and the school district that are contracted with us, they have to do what we call progress monitoring. They have to do one, there's a total of 3 of them. They're only required to do 2 of the 3, and that would be the first one within 45 days after they come into the VPK classroom. And that's basically, they're all online computer assessments. That's how things are going nowadays. But so it just really gives the teacher a baseline of where the child's at. Some children are, by the time they come into VPK, are actually ready for kindergarten. So, but there's unfortunately a lot that aren't. So then the other one that's required is the Progress Monitoring 3 at the end of the school year. The schools have the option of doing the middle progress monitoring if they like, and then that way they can track the progress of the child to see if they're improving, and in the areas that they're not improving, maybe what can be done or what additional services may need to be brought in. The other piece that's not truly a VPK requirement, though, it's really more in our school readiness requirements, is the Ages and Stages Questionnaire, or ASQ, as we call it in the business. And those are required by the teachers to conduct, or the parents, can be either one. And then it really helps to understand if the child is on point based off of their age. So when they come into the school readiness program, one has to be done within 45 days, and then within their birth month annually. So if a child is 2 or more areas short of where they should be, then that's when those teachers have conversations with the parents, and potentially additional services are brought in if that's needed, or maybe it's just some minor things that need to be done to help bring that child up to, where they should be for their age.
And really, I mean, we're talking about a lot of the nuances of what happens, but the ultimate goal is to make sure that these kids are ready for kindergarten when
Correct.
they are leaving this program. And that, I think that has changed, like what ready for kindergarten looks like has changed drastically probably over the most recent years. But I don't know if you guys in your offices have had conversations. I've seen a lot of talk this week especially about the COVID babies that are now going to kindergarten and
Right.
what this looks like for them, because it was a very different time for them to be in school. A lot of them delayed going into childcare settings, or didn't have the socialization experiences
Right.
that they've had. But truly, the purpose of what these centers are working on and what you guys are making sure is quality at these centers is making sure they're ready to get into kindergarten when it's time.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. So, and with the Ages and Stages Questionnaire, there's also another component that looks at the social emotional areas of the child and that piece of the development. So I can't urge parents enough that at least by the age of 2, the earlier the better, but at least by the age of 2, if you're fortunate enough to have your child at home with you, it's important to make sure that they still get that socialization with other children around their same age. So because a lot of learning happens. So, and play is actually learning for children, under 5. So that,
It's a great plug for our play groups.
Yeah.
yes.
I do have to say.
So we got about 10 minutes left on the program because I just checked the clock. But I feel like with the Early Learning Coalition, at least from my experience, I know you do more, but there's like 3 major components. There's the information referral, which we'll talk about last.
Okay.
There's the VPK, voluntary pre-kindergarten, which we're kind of talking about, and then the subsidized childcare, or just childcare.
Mm-hmm.
So real quick, the voluntary pre-K, that's a state program.
Correct.
It's available to everybody.
Every 4-year-old. They have to be 4 on or before September 1st. But if your child, there are other situations that if you feel your child's not ready to enter VPK, and most likely they're going to be entering kindergarten a year later, then we can potentially get them in the next year. But they're only allowed 1 year of VPK. So we want to make sure that if the parents want that the year before they enter kindergarten, and there's the potential that they're not going to go into the school year program. And basically, that's it. There's no income requirements. It's free to all 4-year-olds. Again, September 1, just like for kindergarten, they have to be 5 on or before September 1st. It's 4 for VPK on that same date. You don't even have to come into our office. You can go right online, www.elcslc.org. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see where you can choose school readiness or VPK. And then there's a state portal. Everything's done online. You upload a couple of documents, birth certificate, and I think proof of address. And there might be one other. So, but it'll walk you through that. And then once we get that information, we review it and send out an approval with the certificate. And then they choose the school that they would like to go to for that.
And as Ashley mentioned, it's a state program because we want to make sure kids, we kind of alluded it to when we're introducing you, we want to make sure that the kids are successful in kindergarten because, success builds upon success.
Yep.
So what better way than have them go to a voluntary, it's voluntary, but we strongly urge you to do it because it's
That's
free, voluntary so that they can kind of get those solid building blocks for a successful transition to formal public school at kindergarten.
Correct, yep. And most, there are child care centers out there that most of them follow the school district school year, but they don't necessarily have to. They have to start within a couple of weeks of school starting with the public schools and end within a couple of weeks of the public school system ending their year. But we also have some child care centers that offer a full day for half a year of VPK, if that happens to work better for the child and or the parent. And then we also have a summer VPK program that, again, if the school year isn't quite right, or maybe somebody is moving and they're not ready to put their child in and they want them to go in the summertime, we can do that too. But summer VPK is a very long day for a 4 to 5 year old, you know, so, but it's out there and it's available. The other piece of VPK that I want to make sure I mention is the instructional services program, which if a traditional VPK setting is not the right setting for a child and they're receiving physical therapies or occupational type therapies, as long as that therapist is approved by the state of Florida, we can't approve them locally, but if they go through the process of being approved by the state, then we can actually use those VPK dollars to help pay for those therapies. So that's, you know, kind of one of those best kept secrets kind of thing. So we've actually had a few families take advantage of that in St. Lucie County, but probably not to what truly, you know, is out there.
So I know you said that they can apply, and I'm still in the voluntary pre-K or VPK. They can apply online, do all that at www.elcslc.org, the acronym, because we love this, Early Learning Coalition, stluciecounty.org. But if they have questions, like let's say, you know, they're like, I watched the show, I think I get it, but I just want to double check. Can they call your office and to speak with somebody?
Yeah, absolutely. They can give our office a call at 772-595-6424. And we also have portals available in our office. So if they don't have a computer at home, which also the portal is smartphone compatible, so they could do it right on their phone. But if for whatever reason they don't feel comfortable or want some assistance in actually applying, we have, I believe it's 8 portals in our office, so we can handle anyone coming in and we'll help them through that process.
That's awesome.
And before we pivot to the subsidized, or just childcare in general, all year round, you know, real quick, your best pitch, you know, if somebody's watching, they're like, you know what, Sean, Tony, Ashley, you know, I'm fortunate enough to stay at home, you know, I hang out with my kid. Like, why do I need to do this? What's the best pitch for why, even if they have all their accommodations set?
Right,
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
now it's your
Okay, all right, awesome. So, thanks for that pressure. So, it absolutely is a great program. It's more about the socialization and preparing your child for that kindergarten setting. So, most, again, are follow the school year, so they're a 3-hour program. If you have the ability to bring your child in at 9 a.m. and pick them up at noon, there's absolutely no cost, no supplies, nothing is required for payment from the parents. So to give your child an opportunity of a quality educational experience to help strengthen their foundation with going into kindergarten, I think is an option that no parent should leave to the side.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, you have approximately 80-something% participating.
Correct.
Of all 4-year-olds. Let's get that to 100. Tell your neighbor if you're like, hey, how old's your child?
Yeah.
Call Early Learning Coalition. They should be in a VPK program.
Leave it to Sean to throw a challenge out there.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
All right, so-
oddly enough, our enrollment is down this year. So, but a lot of times, what happens is the certificates have been issued, but right now it's now the beginning, and so if parents have made last-minute decisions, maybe last week they're finalizing things or
They're
what have
starting to
you.
roll in.
So now those teachers or the child care centers have to put those certificates in the system so that we can see where they are. So we're down a little bit from where we've been in the previous years, but we're anticipating that over these next couple of weeks, and probably by the end of August, because for us to pay the child care providers, those children have to be in the system. Yeah. So we're hoping our numbers, come up soon.
So now let's pivot just to childcare, what I'll call subsidized childcare, and and this is so important for working families.
Yes.
Who's watching the child while you're at work from 7:30 to 5 or 8 to 5, whatever it may be,
Right.
and we want to make sure they're in a quality environment.
Yes, absolutely. So we're contracted with child care centers as well for the subsidized care program, school readiness we refer to it as. And so with this program, parents are required to have or meet income thresholds, and they also have to be working and or going to school. So if there's a parent out there that is not working but they're going to school full-time, they may qualify. So we also have part-time care and full-time care. So depending on the number of hours a person is working and or going to school, and we can add those together if they're doing both, then we could approve them for, again, either part-time care or full-time care.
And what are the age thresholds for that?
So we will serve from birth all the way to 13. So they age out at 13. And actually, they're allowed, now the state did make some slight changes that if a child turns 13 in January, well, they're still, and if they're still in that middle school, setting, that we would pay for them until the end of the school year. So
that's super helpful. We know from our experience with our after-school programs that work with you, that is incredibly helpful to a lot of families who are working to have a safe place for their children to go after school.
Yep, for sure.
Before they get home from work. That's excellent. So again, enrollment for that is on your website.
Correct,
at
yes.
Our very favorite acronym, elcslc.org.
Right. So, and we're right now, or for the month of August, our preliminary numbers are in, and I think we paid for over 3,360 plus children for the month of July. So,
wow.
And if I can, we also have, we're fortunate enough to receive some funding from the Children's Services Council that allows us to help families that don't qualify for school readiness. One is a pilot that we've worked on for many years, the FATES program, and with that we currently have 116 children in that program. So we're excited about that we've been able to move that number up. And ultimately what that program is related to those families that are parents that are, again, working or going to school, but maybe they're not meeting the requirements of the school readiness program. So we have or maybe they need to find a job, so we can give them coverage for 3 months, and then they could potentially move into the school readiness program. And on the flip side of that, when they come out of the school readiness program, then we can help ease them back into paying 100% of care. And we usually do that over a 2 to 3 year period, depending on how fortunate the family is and how much their income grows over time.
And we're 8 seconds left. Real quick though, if you have young children and you're exploring childcare, if you want to see if you qualify for VPK, subsidized childcare, or you just want to know what to look for in a childcare and selecting it, the Early Learning Coalition does that. You can call them at 595-6424 or go to their website at elcslc.org. Sorry, I forgot about what county we live in. Thank you all for tuning in. We're going to stay here because it's raining. We can hear that, but we're going to leave you now. Thank you for tuning in. A reminder that it's our children, our community, our future. Now more than ever, folks, we're all in this together. We'll see you next time.